I'll be discussing biomimetic in terms of restorative dentistry. Okay, now, if you're just going to restore the tooth, then you don't have to attend any seminar. Because you already studied it in school. Okay, so it's nothing really. You just prepare the tooth, put the restoration, and you're done. But it depends on the level of your practice that you want to achieve. Because as I've said, although we are all dentists, there are three things that makes us different. One is the ability to be able to diagnose the case. Second is the ability to understand the material you are using. And third, the talent of your hands. So even if you tell the other dentist what you did, he can never really totally imitate what you do because each of us has its own talent. So this is the same as biomimetic. What's really biomimetic, okay? Now, this is actually being present for quite some time. It is, you try to imitate what is natural. You know what I mean? Like, for example, in a lot of countries like Thailand, Korea, Philippines, being beautiful is very important, or vain. So there's a lot of cosmetic going on. Actually, some dentists in Hong Kong, they even do buy Botox and fillers. Okay? So it's all about beautification. And you try to imitate what is natural. Because you don't want the face of your patient looking like a horse. You know, like the teeth is going more forward than the face. So we try to imitate what is natural. And this is what I'm going to teach you, because sometimes we need very short period of time to do our treatment so that, you know, the replacement of the patient is really fast. But we do not sacrifice the quality. And I'm excited this afternoon that we will do, hands-on workshop. Okay, so do you know the application of Tinder? No. You're so, well, there's no millennial here. See, he's a millennial. Well, Tinder is a dating app, okay? Wherein when you see a guy or a girl, you swipe right if you like, or you swipe left if you don't like. And then you get to meet someone. Now, actually, I do not know the app. But I was introduced by a dentist who's really young. And he loves going out. So I consider, choosing the right material like finding a good date. Because there's so many materials out there. And sometimes you get confused whether you like it or you don't like it. So the first thing is you have to figure out which one is important to you. Because I can tell you what's nice about the material, but it's really up to the way you want your practice to be and how you want to deliver your treatment, and that makes certain choices. So you either swipe right or you swipe left. So how many of you like minimally invasive? It's right or left? Right, okay. Because a lot of dentists doesn't like minimally invasive, especially implantologists. Which is very common nowadays. They like to extract the tooth instead of doing root canal because, they invested so much in studying it and the material is so expensive. So every time they see, we do implant. So for me, it's not like that. I prefer not to do anything on the tooth as much as possible. Like, for example, I'm handicapped. Okay, and the reason why is because a doctor injected me with anti-tetanus and hit my sciatic nerve. See, you cannot restore the sciatic nerve. And that is the same in the tooth. Once you remove it, it's gone. No matter how good you are as a dentist, nobody or nothing can replace the natural tooth. And once you make a mistake, that's it. You cannot say, wait, I will return it back. Or paste it or glue it. So the less distraction you do, the more chances you have to correct your mistake. Because we are all human. We make mistakes all the time. That's why it's called dental practice. Because we practice to our patient. And you know, the greatest teacher in practice is mistakes. So don't be afraid to learn. It's good that you attend. But the learning process is really trying it on the patient. Learning what you made wrong. And for me, that is the best teacher. Okay? So that's why it is best if we destroy a limited time. Now, the second is durability. Right or left? Huh? Oh, are you all awake? Okay, so right. Yes, because a lot of dentists, they always talk about how long will it last, blah, 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 to the point that it becomes such a priority that they don't care that the tooth can be destroyed just so that their restoration will last forever. Okay, so next is ease of use. Now, for me, as you grow older, you know, I like easy stuff. Honestly, sometimes you get really tired. You know, when I was young, I even do my own complete denture. You know, because I studied, and that's what I try to do. But as you grow older, you just bring it to the lab. I don't want hassle. You know, I want my work as easy as possible. Okay? So the very important thing, and sometimes becomes the priority of all practitioners, is the price. Right or left? Right. Everybody right. Because the price is always very critical, depending especially in your market. You know? Like, for example, yesterday, I asked how much is the ceramics. How much do you charge? Now, these are, I think, government people. So, for young people, how much do you charge your ceramic to your patient? Oh, you're even cheaper. You're shocking me. You're even cheaper. Okay, so yesterday was $100 to $150. Now, for the laboratory, between 20 to 30 US dollars. And that is really cheap. I will go to sleep if my charge of ceramics like that. Because our minimum ordinary ceramics, we charge the patient around 300 to 400 US dollars. And then for high-end materials, we charge around 500 to 800 US dollars. Because, you know, it's not just the laboratory cost. It's everything, the equipment, the investment that you do, the infection control, everything else. Okay? And sometimes we get scared charging the patient. Now, at first it will be hard. Because when I was young and, you know, starting practice, I work from 9 to 9, you know, as long as there's a patient. Because I need to pay my rent, okay? And I do everything. You know, I follow the cheaper price, all those things, until I get really tired. You know, my neck aches, my back ache, and my neighboring dentist, she goes home at 6, you know, and her charge is very high. And she's earning. She's not exhausted like me. So I said, forget it, you know. And then at first, it's really very hard. Because, of course, your patient will say, oh, why are you higher, expensive, this dentist is cheaper. But later on, when you build a reputation, and if your work is really that good, they don't care anymore. See? And that's why I'm able to retire early. So, achieve that. You know, don't break your back until you're about to die before you are able to enjoy your life. So, you know, price on the material and price on the patient goes hand in hand. Okay? So, the next is, there you go, the aesthetic thing. Because when you charge high, the patient has to really appreciate what you did. Right? I mean, in Thailand, cosmetic surgery is cheaper. And Korea is more expensive. But look at the actors and the actresses in Korea. They look very natural, right? But they had eyelid, nose, everything else. And it is not cheap. So when I watch, because I love watching Korean dramas, so when I watch K-drama, you appreciate their skin, their nose, their face. They're so beautiful and very rare that they have a natural beauty, but it looks very natural. And that is what's nice about dentistry, making it natural. Like as you can see in my lower, I used to have, you will see later, the case of my lower teeth. So before I go, before I talk further, you look at the person right beside you and smile. Come on, go ahead. Make a good morning. Or smile. Oh, you're a dentist. You should be proud of your teeth. Huh? Okay. So, normally, a lot of dentists, they don't have nice teeth. I mean, look at me. I have crowded, I have, protrusion, and before I have diastema, and a lot of my friends keeps on harassing me that they will fix my teeth, but I don't like. You know why? Because when I was in college, I really have a nice set of dentition. And then I had this bright idea to replace my amalgam with composite. And at that time, the composite is really bad. See, I can remember the brand APH Dentsply. That's why I never teach Dentsply. It destroyed my teeth. Okay, so anyway, the bonding and the composite at the time was not really good. So I got root canal, I got fixed bridge. The composite deteriorated and there wasn't a problem in the first place. Okay? So, for the longest time, I said, I will never touch my teeth unless necessary. And sometimes we get scared of the dentist. My dentist, when he does me, I have a mirror in front. And even before he does my teeth, we have a discussion of what he's going to do. And then it took the inventor of Edelweiss to fix my lower. Because initially, he was just supposed to fix the porcelain bridge. I had a porcelain bridge and the porcelain cracked. So the metal was exposed. Now, I don't like it removed because the fit is good. And I don't like this. You tell otherwise you need to crack the porcelain, right? So I don't like that hassle. I'm a dentist, but I don't like to be a patient. Okay, so I told Dr. Stefan, can you put occlusion VD on top of the metal? Because my upper teeth is elongating. Okay, because there's no more contact. Okay, so he did it so well, it looked so nice. To the point I said, okay, fix everything. But can you not do, touch, reduce, move any tooth structure? So he checked my overbite, my overjet, and then he said, yes, I can restore it without destroying anything. And see, it looks so natural. You wouldn't even know that I had a veneer, occlusion VD, whatever. And that's why, personally, I don't really like much zirconium. Personally. Because zirconium really looks artificial. It's hard, but it's very opaque. I much prefer Emax. I don't know if you have Emax here, but I teach Emax, and that is for laboratory, that is, for me, the best material. Anyway, when it comes to Edelweiss, it is also like having it done in the laboratory. Because it's already done for you. The only difference is that you have to adjust it according to the patient. It's like going to the mall. You tell the sales lady, I like this dress. Do you have it in medium? And then they say, yes, we have it in medium. And then you fit it. And sometimes it's loose here, it's loose there. And then you just, I will just fix that side so that it will fit. And that is Edelweiss. Okay? So we have a lot of options. We have, tell me if I'm, if you don't understand what I'm saying, just raise your hand and I will repeat it again. So we have different options. We have the direct restoration, which is very common in everybody. Okay, so how many of you does multi-layering technique? Raise your hand. Very few. Normally, all dentists do multilayering technique. It's how you earn a lot of big bucks without, spending so much. So you just invest in a good composite. Now, the problem with direct restoration is because composite is one of the best material, okay, that mimics the natural. Now, what is the disadvantage of composite? Stain. Yes, very good. What else? Shrinkage, yes. And that is very common. Okay? Especially in stain. Why? Why does composite resin stain? That's why glass ionomer is good for children, because glass ionomer has a stable color. Okay? Now, the reason why is because of the resin. We all know that composite resin is made of fillers and resin, meaning organic and inorganic material. And the organic material absorbs all we eat, we drink, whatever we do in our mouth. And that becomes a stain later on. And notwithstanding the shrinkage when you cure it. Now, another for the dentist, for direct restoration, because this is also direct restoration. The problem with direct restoration is sometimes our hands is not as good. Not all dentists are born equal. Some dentists are really artistic. I mean, even if they don't study, you bow at their talent. Their hands are really good. So they sell this mold. This mold. And then you just place composite and you press the mold and cure it. Voila, there is already carving. Okay? But that's not a restoration. It's just like an ice tray. An ice tray, you put ice and you put it in the freezer, and then once it's set, you remove it, it looks like the shape of the ice tray. Now, this is a good material if you do a lot of direct restoration. But still, it will later on result to stain because it's still composite resin. Okay? Now, another one is having it done in the laboratory. As I've said, you can have zirconium, porcelain, IMAX, ceramage, all the things that you can do. And this is also a good option because sometimes there are cases that you do not have a choice but have, do a bridge or a crown. So you need to choose the best one for you. Okay? So, and then we will be discussing this morning and afternoon, the pre-form. Meaning, it's already formed for you, and that is the last layer that you will place after building it up with composite. Okay? So what is an Edelweiss dentistry option? Now, an Edelweiss dentistry option is all about trying to save the tooth. Okay? Now the inventor of Edelweiss is a 41-year-old good-looking guy. I wish I was single because he's still single. He has a blonde hair and he'll be coming here in January. So I hope you come. And there's also a master class that's going to be held in September where some of your dentists from Myanmar is also going to join. And this is an advanced class because you can do a lot of things with Edelweiss, but because I've heard you bought an intricate, now my suggestion is that when you get back to your clinic, do not do complicated cases first. That's the problem with the dentist. When they buy a material, they try to do it immediately in complicated cases. And then they make mistakes. It's like you never cooked before, and then you want the most difficult dish. So in the end, you get it burned, you get it dry, it tastes bad, because you haven't really tried the basic first. And because our brain is so used to doing indirect restoration in the lab, in the porcelain, you handle it like porcelain. See, it's like when you shift from, how many of you done amalgam in the practice? Because amalgam has been changed. No more, but a long time ago, we all do amalgam. Actually, amalgam is good. It's just that they scare you. That you will not have a baby, you will die with cancer, you will have diseases, but it's it's not true. They're just scaring you, okay? So, anyway, the only problem with amalgam is that it doesn't look good. That's it. That's the only thing. Plus, it's very difficult now to import mercury. That is the only. Don't believe in all the blah. Because if it's true, I'm already dead. A lot of people is already dead because we all had amalgam before. So it's not true. So anyway, Dr. Seven, who invented the Edelweiss, had this thing that, I need a material that mimics the nature, in all aspects, in almost all aspects, but at the same time, be able to remove the cause of shrinkage and the cause of staining. So what he did is that he used the initial raw material of composite and ended up with vitrified glass. Okay? Because as I said, glass ionomer, as I mentioned, is not, it doesn't stain because it's glass. But the problem with the ionomer is that it doesn't totally mimic the strength of the natural tooth. So Edelweiss, he created now a concept on how to do it and process it in manufacturing. Now, the reason why I'm explaining it to you, so that you can understand what kind of material you are holding. Now, in his head, he wants to preserve the tooth. Okay? So, what he did is he created the mold, and then the mold, he injected it with composite resin, and then it goes through the process wherein it removes all the resin and lives with the glass. So it has the properties of the composite resin without the disadvantages of composite, because it is now becoming vitrified glass. And then to provide the gloss and the ability to really unite all the materials, he laser-sintered it like that. So all the particles becomes joined together. Now, a lot of dentists, they experience fracture. Why? Because they do not do the protocol properly. Because in Edelweiss, this is what you have to remember. When something is wrong, let's just say you place Edelweiss on your patient's tooth. If you did not check the canine guidance or the bite, when they chew, the doing like this is very easy. But the material will break once you chew. Okay? And with Edelweiss, what it does, it absorbs the force. Because it protects the teeth. So when it breaks, it's the one that breaks. Unlike porcelain. Porcelain doesn't care. It's so hard that when there's something is wrong, it will not break the porcelain. It will break the tooth first. Now, which one would you like? Break the restoration or the tooth? Huh? Restoration. Yes, that's the honest answer. A lot of dentists, they prefer that the natural tooth breaks. Why? Because in the head of the patient, when your restoration breaks, they blame you. But if it's the natural tooth, they blame themselves. See? And then, more money for you. Because the natural tooth broke, you have to fix it. See, that's why they love ceramics. But see, that is dentistry for people who are just in dentistry for this. Because I've always said, dentistry is a practice of conscience. I like money, don't get me wrong. I love money. But I have to sleep very nicely in the evening. When I was young and you're still aggressive, of course your focus is getting rich, being able to buy nice bags, shoes, house, whatever it is that you wanna buy. But after a while, as you grow older, these things, you can only wear one watch at a time. You can only bring one bag at a time. So, at the end of the day, it's all about reputation. And in Edelweiss, if you follow the protocol, and if something goes wrong, since you did not remove so much of the tooth structure, you can still fix it. See? So, unlike when you do ceramics, or let's say zirconium, I don't like endo because for the longest time, the things I do not like about dentistry, I do not practice. I refer, But I have to learn how to do endo because most of the time when I remove the bridge, I see the preparation like a post. And then it's painful already. Then I'm forced to do a root canal. And probably now the dentist will just say, let's pull it out and do an implant. See? So, Dr. Stefan said, oh, okay, this works, okay? If something goes wrong, sometimes if your light is not so good and it debonds, it doesn't look weird on the patient because the tooth is still there. See, because you did the touch. Now, I'm not saying all the time you're not going to remove anything. Because there are cases you have to remove something. Like, for example, in my case, because it is crowding, they need to, remove a little bit of this, and remove a little bit of that. That's why, even if they want to fix it, I said later on, once, it bothers me. So, Dr. Stefan ended up doing a veneer, a post and core. This already has a post and a core. So, all you have to do, how many of you do root canal and post and core? Okay. Wow, more than the earlier. Okay, so now you do the same process of the post and core. They say just drill. Now, since this is glass, this is vitrified glass, you need to etch and bond inside the tooth and wash it off. But it's the same. It's like doing a fiber reinforced post. Okay? Except that it already has a core. So it makes things easy. And I have one in my teeth. See? Because my principle in my practice, I don't do anything that I cannot use to myself or use to my loved ones. That is my main qualification when I purchase something. Okay? And then this I really love. This is, how many of you do onlay? Onlay? How, only one? Yesterday, 0. Or I don't know if they understand me. Onlay, inlay, and before, onlay is mostly metal. Gold, silver, things like that. And it's very hard. And onlay is very nice because in onlay, it protects the stress-bearing area of your posterior. Now, this is the first time that an occlusion, an onlay, this is actually an onlay. It's just named Occlusion PT as a brand, but it is an onlay. So you prepare it like an onlay. But the good thing about it is that you just need to reduce it at a level to accommodate it. See, so you don't, unlike the onlay in the lab, you have to remove a lot of the tooth structure. Now, remember, all the Edelweiss product is very thin. It is really thin. And some dentists, they try to crack. Of course, it will break. Because it's thin. If you get the ceramic and you get the Edelweiss, of course, the ceramic will not break. Because it's very thin. Why? Because when you place the ceramic, the reduction of the tooth structure is more. To accommodate the space. Right? So that it will have enough thickness, you need to remove the tooth in order to accommodate the artificial. Does that make sense to us? See, they will say, oh, destroy your tooth so that I can place something artificial. See, it doesn't make sense. Right? So, these are very thin. Where does it get support? It gets support from the tooth, from the bonding, and from the composite. Because you do not use luting composite. You don't need luting composite. You just need your regular composite. See? But your regular composite has to be good quality. Okay? Because if you use really cheap, you know. I'm sorry, but I really don't like made in China. I'm sorry. You know, I got burned in, especially in equipments. The cheap, because I tried before. Because China, you get attracted with the price. But in the end, the service, you know, it's not value for my money. I don't, unless you want to buy every time, then fine. So for me, the critical, you know, like I compare dentistry like cooking. And as a chef, you need to have a good stove, a good knife, a good pots and pans. So like me, I have to have a good chair, a good light, a good handpiece, good instruments, and the material I used for aesthetics. Because it is like doing makeup. You know, you can buy cheap quality. But, you know, it doesn't look good if you buy quality. Even if you are good in applying makeup, if your makeup is cheap, it will become flaky. And then suddenly there's powder like this. You know? So it's the same in restoration. So anyway, and then recently, we have the introduction of the pediatric crown, which I'm so excited because most of the pediatric crown in the market is metal. Now again, for parents, because dentists need to teach the patient. Because you know, I teach the patient. Before we do a treatment, I have to sit down and discuss to the patient. Like for example, when I use Edelweiss, I tell the patient, you know, if something goes wrong, the restoration will break. But do not cry, do not get mad. You know, just come back to me, I will repair it. Because I guarantee my work for 1 year. No question asked. Okay? Dr. Stefan guarantees his work for 5 years. I cannot last 5 years, just 1 year, you know. They can charge a lot in Europe. But in the Philippines, not much. Okay? So, anyway. So, the pediatric round, you have to teach the parents that even if it's temporary, you need to make it last. You know? So that when the permanent teeth comes out, you know, it has a very good dentition. Now, I'm not a pediatric dentist. I said I don't like, you know, the most part of dentistry I do not like is ortho. How many here are orthodontists? Ortho? Oh, you do a lot of this. You're probably rich. How many are ortho? Just one? Because I don't like. See, I will not even touch. It is the only subject I'm happy when I was in school. I really hate it. I go to sleep. I don't like to keep doing the same thing over and over again. That's why I like aesthetics. Once I do it right. Bye-bye! See you later! In ortho, oh, you're here again! And then I have to do it. So boring. Don't like it. So, anyway, I don't like ortho. And then the second is I don't like pediatric. That's why probably I don't have a child. I don't know. I like children, but I don't like them as patients. Because it takes almost an hour just to go up, go down. And then the treatment, you have to work fast. That's why a lot of pediatric dentists just do sedation. And they earn so much. See? Me, I don't like that. So, if pediatric crown will be introduced in Myanmar, probably a pediatric dentist will talk about it to you. Because I'm not in the position, but I actually appreciate that there is a material that is not as hard as metal. Okay? Now, so, it is a complete thing. Now, just like finding the right guy to marry, how many of you are married already? Oh, everyone is single? Okay. Both single. Okay. So, when you're single, before you get married, you need to get to know the person, right? So, it's the same thing in materials. You know what I love about Myanmar? is a lot of dentists, they're very open. You know, they're open to learning. The problem in a lot of countries, like developed countries, they're already, I know that, I don't care, you know. they I don't know. They're not, they're too, the ego is so high. And on to the point that, you know, no matter how good you are, like me, I lecture, but I like attending other speakers. Because I like to learn. Like, oh, that's how it's done. You know, sometimes you get something very little, but you get to apply it. So, that's why when you buy a material, when you invest, like for example, you bought an intro kit, okay? Don't bring it to the clinic and put it in the cabinet and say, I will wait for the patient. It will not happen. Okay, so you have to promote it, okay? So, I will discuss first the common question. Is it strong? Is it strong? Now, this is, you know, the strength is depending on how you preserve the tooth. As you can see, the zirconium and the ceramic is very high in flexural strength. Flexural strength is when there's a force and it bends and resists from breaking. Okay? Now, as you can see, ceramics and zirconium goes really high. Because which one will break? The natural tooth. So if you want to break the natural tooth of the patient, then just use zirconium and ceramics all the time. Doesn't matter, you know, because it will never break. It will break first. Then if there's a premature contact, the first one that will break is the natural tooth. Because look at the difference of enamel and dentine versus hip. It is so high. So you cannot really compare Edelweiss because it tries to get the average strength. Okay? Now, look at the compressive strength. Look at how high it is. 2,000. Holy cow. You know, and zirconium has some, now there is zirconium and a blend of ceramics. So the strength, it depends when there is a mixture of ceramic and pure zircon. Okay? And then look at the flexural modulus where it resists. Look at how high that is. And look at the tooth. It's just, the enamel is just, the enamel is just 15 to 20. How can it survive? How can it survive the natural tooth? It's just too strong. Okay? And look at the surface hardness. See? That is so high. And this is only the surface hardness of enamel. So, well, as I said, if you want to see the patient, then just use all these things. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying don't do ceramics or don't do zirconium. Don't get me wrong, okay? I'm just saying that if your priority is minimally invasive, try to do something minimally invasive first, and then when it becomes worse and worse later on, then do the ceramics and zirconium. You know, it's like, if you ask me, which one is minimally invasive? Orthodontics or Edelweiss? And I will tell you, orthodontics. Because orthodontics, you don't remove anything. So that's why, if I see a case and I ask, the patient, and then I ask, I recommend always ortho. I will tell them, do braces. Like for example, for diastema, do braces. Unfortunately, patients sometimes don't like braces. I mean, just Wang, I see him when he eats, he has to remove all the bothersome things that you do. I don't like braces, that's why I let, because I don't want, pain. So, then you have the next option, which is Edelweiss, because you don't touch anything. Okay? So, I will get a model and I will show you how to do, veneer as in mock-up. because I would like to teach the dentist how to interest the patient. You know, don't wait until the patient falls down in your lap and say, oh, okay. Okay, so as you can see, these are very thin. Okay. Use cotton for isolation. I normally wrap it with gauze because the problem of the cotton is the fiber. I really hate when the fiber gets entangled in my restoration. Just swallow. You can swallow. Okay. So let's diagnose first, because the most critical thing in any treatment is you have to diagnose first. You don't go and do everything else. So as you can see, this is really ideal because he has diastema from canine to canine. And sometimes, if you want, you can also do it in the premolar. Okay? And normally, because I already prepared it, normally I ask the patient to smile. You need to learn how to smile because it makes the world a better place when you smile. And when you smile, you can see the smile line. And you will know which one up to where you're going to restore. And I believe this is a very ideal case for us. Now, normally, if I will do that, okay, so when you do the patient, you just roughen up a little bit. Now, again, check the overbite and the overjet, but this is just a mock-up to show him what you can do. So you don't have to, you know, who cares about overbite, overjet? You are just talking to the patient that I'm going to show you something that you might like to try. So the first thing is you have to choose the right size. Okay? So in Asian, normally the size is small. However, there are times that it becomes medium because like this, you know, you have a diastema closure, so you need a little bit larger. Now, of course, it will depend. For men, the shape is a little bit squarish. For women, a little bit sexy. But of course, it's up to him if he wants to look like a girl. You know, so we will have to test it first. Wait, okay? So, then you put it on the mouth like that. See? See? As you can see, it already almost covered the central. But we can check the medium if it looks much better. Okay? See, the medium is, I think, much better. See, because it already covers. But there is a lot of adjustment. So if you don't like to do a lot of adjustment, you can just add a little bit of the composite here, you know, from the back, so that it has an extension already. And then smoothen a little bit of this, and this will come forward. You will just add more on this part so that it will be forward, and you will tell the patient, initially, you will feel like it's thick. You know, like the first in my lower before, I keep on playing it because it used to have diastema. Then after 6 months, I don't feel anything. See? So you have to educate your patient. Otherwise, he will keep complaining on you at the middle of the night. Okay? So let's just try the small one. Okay? Just one. Okay, so you get a composite, and you roll it, and you just stick it on the back of the veneer. See, if you add a little bit of the composite here, it is probably you really need a medium. But for the sake of just the mock-up, because this is small, so as you can see, it doesn't cover the entire thing because it's wider. And because of the diastema, you really need to have the medium. Okay? But I'm just showing it to him how it will look like. So you just roll, you don't do anything, you dry the teeth because so that it won't slip. Because I normally work 12 o'clock, but so as you can see, small is not good enough because it's really but for the sake of demonstration, it's okay. It's not full. So later on, you can come and look at, Now, as I said, the veneer is small. So for him, the ideal really is the medium. Okay? But of course, if your sample is just small, then you cannot open all your veneer, although it's autoclavable. But of course, after reusing it so many times, it's too expensive. So, I'm teaching you how to also save money. And then sometimes you mix small, medium. It doesn't mean that it's small or medium. Everything is medium, okay? So this is how you just do the mock-up to show your patient how it looks like. And you can also do a mock-up before you cement, so that you can, like a trial fit, so that before the patient will say, oh, I like it, I don't like it, before you cure it, at least they have an idea. Or if you need to adjust something, you can already adjust it. And you don't have to buy a special glycerin, glycerin paste or solution just to stick it. As I've said, use an expired composite. Actually, one of the speaker of Edelweiss, when he heard me that I use an expired composite, he was very happy. Because he spent so much money just for the trial fit. Okay? So this is not even his size, okay? And then of course, when you do, as you can see, this one is totally composite, see? So if it's a medium, it will cover the entire surface, okay? Okay, so, and look at this part, it's also composite. But that's why I said you can add a little bit of composite and use a medium size. Now, this can be medium, this can be see? A lot better from the earlier. Oh, you give him so that is the mock-up. And then you tell the patient, do you like it? And I'm pretty sure they will say yes. Can you give him a photo? Mirror. You have a mirror. Smile. So you can actually have somebody here after the seminar. Yes. So he can see. Yes. Okay. Because as I've said, it is a smaller size. So normally, look at the difference. I haven't even removed anything. I just stick it, and then see. But that is small for you. If you will do his case, use medium on the central, and then probably small on the lateral. And then on the canine is also small. Now, it depends on the coverage. So as you can see, you have to see if it fits with the cervical. And when you do an Edelweiss, do not reduce the incisal. Because as I've said, you only reduce the incisal when you are already cemented. Because you might over-reduce. And incisal is the stress-bearing area. Okay? So, let's just say you are doing a mock-up that you want to cement. So, what you do is you just edge, bond the Edelweiss, put the composite that you want to use already, do not edge, do not bond the two. Place it properly, carve it, and then cure it. And then once you remove it, it already has the shape of the tooth. See? So the patient can now say, oh, I don't like this, I don't like that. And then you can really enjoy, creating. I have so much fun. It's like doing a makeup. Oh, doctor, can you do a little bit like that so it will look normal? So, what do you think? Huh? Okay. So that is not, oh no, you can already do. So, You can swallow. So, as you can see, and then of course, you need to know the show, the stuff like that, so that you will know the size. So, doesn't it look better without touching? Yeah, and even the lower, and you know what is good about Edelweiss is that, as I said, you can change the shape. See, this as you can see, small is too small because it has a gap. Okay, and normally you add a little bit of composite. So once you place the Edelweiss, it is already aligning on the curvature. So you just pop it out. See? And then have your assistant clean it. Maybe you should change your Edelweiss that you bought from one to medium and ask someone here to do your teeth, because your teeth is actually very ideal for Edelweiss. Like on this part, as you can see, it's like this. So you try to reshape it a little bit here. You know, you have to, it's like doing an ortho without, you know, without heavy brackets. You smoke also? Okay. So because, you see, I smoke. I love to smoke. And you can see the nicotine stains is only it's only on the back. Relax here. Relax here. There. You're trying to hold the cotton. So, normally in restoration, if you will see my teeth later, there is no nicotine stains on the Edelweiss. Because it is laser-sintered and glass, it doesn't stain. So when you do the cleaning, you tell the patient that if you go to another dentist and have an oral prophylaxis, tell your dentist not to use ultrasonic scaler on top of the Edelweiss because it will scratch. Because it is glass and there's no stain. The only reason it stains is because there is a leak. Important. This is why I'm telling you to invest in a good celluloid strip, because if you place the celluloid strip up to this area, okay, so when you put it like that and you cure, there is no overhang on this area, because normally we create an overhang on this area, right? So to make sure there is a complete seal, you place the celluloid strip at the level of the free gingiva. So when you move like that, it's totally smooth. Okay? So, but you cannot do that if you buy cheap celluloid strip, because the cheap one is very hard. And then it will bleed. So now you have more problems. Okay? So, invest in a mylar strip because it's not that expensive. Anyway, on his time, we place a Teflon, and we try to build first on this area because he said he doesn't want it to look like really a line. So we have to create it the way he likes it. Okay? So, and then you have to point cure. Now, because a lot of dentists, because we do not want to clean, the tendency is we haven't pointed cure and then clean and it will move.
So you have to point cure first, okay? So that when you are adjusting, I will show you later the technique. When you are adjusting, it is not moving anymore. And even if you make a mistake, you can just pop it out because you just point cure. Okay? Then after you point cure, now you can adjust now, remove the excess, carve it, seal it, and organize the tooth to make it easy. And now you do the full cure. Now, as I've said, if you use a cheap line, the tendency is because the thickness, although Edelweiss is very thin, the composite inside is very thick. And if your line cannot penetrate, then it will not be fully cured. And then it becomes flaky. And then when the patient eats, it breaks. And which one will break? Edelweiss. And who will you blame? Edelweiss. Not yourself. So make sure you cure a full cure if you're using some other line. And as I've said, much better if you use halogen, if you cannot, if you're still trying to, save money. Now, the one that I used in my husband was the very first generation of Edelweiss. Actually, I wanted to change it now because during that time, the vitrified glass is only 0.8 millimeters. See? So that's why it's very scary to polish. Because once the laser-sintered is gone, it looks like a composite. See? So now I wanted to change it, the one like mine, because mine is totally vitrified glass. So we were slightly removing the excess on this part because we do not want to remove the area that is laser-sintered. See, that was a long time ago. That was 7 years ago. And then you have now to finish it using a different kind of, the ones that you use in your composite. You can use the coarse, then the medium coarse, and then the fine, or you can use other materials. But Edelweiss also have its own polishing. But you do not have to, again, buy expensive ones. You can use whatever you use in composite. Because basically, it is made of glass. Then, you have to reshape the incisal using this wheel. And normally, I buy it from Shofu. Okay? I think Shofu has the most popular when it comes to the finishing wheel. Okay? Now, when I am lazy, I like using a diamond impregnated brush because I do not need to use a paste. And these are all polishing and finishing for composite. You don't have a special polishing or finishing that you need to buy in order to polish or finish Edelweiss. Unlike zirconium, that you need to buy a special polishing or finishing because you will not be able to reach the proper gloss if you are using ordinary polishing and finishing. So this is the before and this is actually the after. He was so happy that now he can actually smile. I told him, smile, smile. So now, and as I said, I wanted to change it because that is the very first version. Now I will finish the important reminders, and then we will have lunch, and then we will do the exciting part, which is the workshop. So these are the things you have to remember when you're doing Edelweiss so that you can avoid a lot of mistakes. Okay. The number one thing is that you have to treat the main cause first. For example, if you have class 4, you seal first the class 4. Do whatever it is to seal the class 4 and then place the Edelweiss as the last layer of your restoration. If there is a problem because it's edge to edge, correct first the edge to edge. If you are using Edelweiss to correct the edge to edge, then you have to make sure that it will be able to position. Now, you have to reduce the tooth. When you are correcting the bite, because you want to correct it without using a split, then you have no choice but to reduce the tooth structure. in order to have a clearance. So you have to build that and make sure that you correct the cause first before you do Edelweiss. Let's just say the patient has bruxism. You need to remove bruxism first before you do Edelweiss. Otherwise, it will not last. Okay? So next is, don't forget to roll the composite. It is very, very important because you want it to be compact so that when you press it, it will spread evenly and it will cement the Edelweiss properly. So, because I experienced that because before, I place it like a straight line on the veneer and it caused me so much problem once I'm cleaning it. So, I'm teaching you how to make it easier for you guys. Okay, the next is, okay, choosing the right shade. Now, as I've said, for him, if he is your patient, do you have a friend here, Dr. Do you have a friend here? Who? Who is your friend? You don't have a friend who's also a dentist here? Your wife? No. Who's here? Who's that? Who? Him? Her? What? Her? Oh, her! Fred! Okay. Okay, so you have to learn how to do this so you can do it. Make you do that in your kit because it's very simple. So, he just pays you for the intro kit. So, if you will do him for the treatment, now, he said he wants it the natural shade of his teeth. So, just use enamel shade. Don't have complication. Now, however, if he likes a variation, like he wants, whiter, then you can place A1, B1, or AO, but AO is too white. And normally, when a patient is like that, I do a mock-up first. I let the patient see how white it is. Okay? And then if the patient said, oh, I still want it, I have to make her sign. Because again, it happened to a friend of mine in Thailand. Okay? He used the AO. The patient got home so happy because it was so white. But all the friends of the patient said, what happened to you? Why is your teeth so white? It looks like, like this. And so she got upset. Initially, she was happy. And then when everybody said it looks really bad, she went back to the dentist again. People, they don't blame themselves. They always put like that. Oh, who's at fault? Never like this. So, the dentist has to repeat it. That's why when the patient asks for something, because the patient is always the one that you follow, unless it is detrimental to his health. But when it comes to cosmetic, you have to ask what the patients want. Okay, so if the patient wants her teeth to look like this without any other color, then I have to make her sign. Because she will destroy my reputation. So I will show you this. This is the picture, you sign it. Okay? No return, no exchange. If you want to change it, you have to pay me another one. That is not part of the guarantee. So, when the patient wants it, you can combine the dentine and the enamel. You can use A1 with the enamel as a translucent. Or, if you just want to use opaque because there is stain and you just don't want translucency on the incisal, then you can actually just use dentine shade. So, because our enamel shade is translucent and our dentine shade is opaque. So, to make your life easier, when you do Edelweiss, use Edelweiss composite. Now, when you are doing veneer preparation, let's just say you need to do a veneer preparation. Then make sure that the shoulder is prepared supra-gingival. Why? Because the margin of the cervical, we do not want it to be contaminated by sulcular fluid. Okay? Because in ceramics, you do it subgingival or equigingival. But normally, it is covered by porcelain. But this one, it is entirely composite underneath. So we do not want any contamination or leakage on that part. Another thing is that you do not have to remove the contact points if it is not necessary. This happened to me. The contact point was so nice, but because I'm so used in doing ceramics or EMAX, I removed the contact points. And in the end, it made my life miserable because now I have to build the contact point. So if the contact point is okay, then don't change it. Okay? So next is, this is very important, you do not remove the incisal of the Edelweiss and the tooth until the Edelweiss is cemented. Because the problem is we over-reduce. And when you over-reduce, it becomes thinner. And that is the stress-bearing area. And that's why the normal fracture happens on the corner. You know? Because precisely, the dentist ends up polishing, removing, or reducing. Once it's cemented, then that's the time you now reduce. Because you can now see, you know, the smile line. Okay? Next is as I've said, you have to clean. You have to clean the Edelweiss or whatever indirect restoration that you're using. You can use chlorhexidine. You can use Ivoclean by Ivoclar. You can use whatever it is to clean it up, or Etchan, just Etchan, plain Etchan in Edelweiss, just to make sure that your gloves are clean because it will contaminate everything and you don't want bacteria in it. So always, always disinfect it or make sure that it is clean. Next is, as I said, you can use 5th to 7th or 8th generation. Now, the 7th and 8th generation is for those for porcelain repair or those with metal. Because the tooth bonding agent for porcelain repair, like for example, it requires 7 or 8 generation. But if it is just a natural thing, then you can use 5th generation. As I've said, I mentioned the following tooth bonding agent that works well. Because, of course, I'm trying to imitate Dr. Stefan, so I use whatever he used. You know, you cannot go wrong. So, he uses all-in-one Visco, and then another, as I've said, we tested Optiban, Peak, the Ivoclar Vivaden, I forgot the name, the Viva Pen, okay? The Viva Pen, and then the single use of single application, whatever, the orange one in 3M. Because I also don't use 3M. Because for me, 3M is not aesthetic lines. And normally, I use brands that are into aesthetics. Like, for example, Per, Ultradent, these are aesthetic lines. And, Ivoclar Vivaden. So, and that's why GC came out with an aesthetic line now, see? Because the material in aesthetics is really different from ordinary restoration. So, anyway. The next is use quality composite resin, and as I've said, you need to use a highly filled composite, and I really recommend that you use our Edelweiss composite. But if, like for example, you run out of the Edelweiss composite and you can use your own, just make sure that this Edelweiss that it is highly filled. Now, as you can see, the composite of Edelweiss is in Compuse. Now, the reason why is because in Europe, infection control is very important. You know, the problem with the syringe is that when you put like that, you put like the saliva, it's like, halo-halo. I don't know if you heard halo-halo in the Philippines. When you go halo-halo because it has a crushed ice and then beans and sweet stuff they blend it together. So a lot of things. So the saliva is all over the composite resin. And that's why in Europe or in some areas, developed countries, they prefer Compuse. Because Compuse, you cannot contaminate the composite resin at the back. Now, always check the K9 guidance. This is something that you should do even in ordinary restoration. You tell the patient to move like this in the other excursion, and definitely the entire posterior has no contact, but the canine tip and the upper and lower is touching each other. That is the canine guidance. You make sure that you have a good canine guidance, because the reason why a lot of restoration, not only Edelweiss, breaks because of the premature contact when they are chewing like that. Okay? So always, always. You know, my husband, after we did it, we're so happy we forgot to check the canine guidance. And 3 days later, there is a fracture on the lower. But we repaired it with composite. So, again, always check the canine guidance. Now, next is always check the overjet and the overbite. Because, as I've said, Edelweiss, although it is very strong, it is also very thin. And if you do not have the proper clearance, then of course, it will absorb the force and it will break. So, to communicate to your patient, you automatically tell your patient that if something goes wrong, it is not because the material I choose to place on you chippy, but because it's the one who absorbs the force to protect your tooth. Okay? So, you check the overjet and the overbite. The reason why Dr. Stefan was able to repair my lower teeth without reducing anything is because there is a proper overjet and overbite, and there is a clearance. So, he was able to just place it like, doctor, can you swallow and then bite? See, he doesn't have enough overbite and overjet, so you will have to adjust a little bit, protrude it a little bit so that there will be a clearance. So always do that so that when he bites, he will be able to, no problem. Now, next is the vertical dimension. Because, of course, if it is too deep bite, then you have to really correct the bite. Now, there has to be, the ideal length has to be from the vestibulum to vestibulum of the upper and the lower. The total is 14 millimeters. Now, I'm not saying that it always have to be 40. Sometimes it can be 38. Sometimes it can be 37. But you need to have a proper clearance. So, if it is too deep bite, then I suggest don't use Edelweiss. Or correct first the vertical dimension. Okay? So, next is remove all premature contact. Because if you don't remove the premature contact, again, I'm telling you, it will, the Edelweiss will break because it will absorb the force. So make sure that you remove the premature contact, especially if you're using occlusion video. Okay? Now, next is make sure it is totally sealed. On the side here, on the incisal part here, on the cervical, you make sure that it is totally sealed. Because if it is not totally sealed, and that means not only sealing it properly, but curing it properly. You have to get the explorer and scratch if the composite is not flaky. Okay? That is why I am telling you, save some money and then invest in a good light. Because otherwise, all your restoration will really not last. So, make sure that it is totally sealed. Okay? And of course, if you have good results, your patients will be very, very happy.